Good morning, everyone. Let's take a look at updates as it relates to the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas. I'm recording this at 8:30 a.m. Central Time on Saturday, October 14th, 2023. And first, a quick thank you to Lucas Weber, Noir, and a handful of other people across social media who have shared reliable sources with me to help me and hopefully others then better understand this conflict. It's very, very much appreciated. So starting out, the Israeli Defense Forces did not put out the standard update graphic that they have for a few days here, but were able to gather some information from a handful of different sources. Airstrikes have continued across Gaza. The last official count from the IDF was 2,687 strikes. The Israeli Air Force then said another 750 had been carried out. So after 1 week, we're looking at the very least, 3,437 targets having been engaged through these strikes. Now, these strikes could be bomb drops, missiles, and or rockets, maybe some artillery mixed in there as well. Not entirely clear what they're counting when looking at that number. There have been over 6,000 rockets now fired from Hamas into Israel. That number peaked in the first 24, 48 hours of this war. It has steadily decreased since then, and you'd expect that to continue to go down, especially as the siege around Gaza intensifies. Over 1,300 Israelis have been confirmed killed. Over 3,200 have been wounded. I would not expect those numbers to change significantly until Israel pushes into Gaza in some sort of military operation. It took a little bit of time for Israel to identify all of the dead and wounded from the terrorist attack on October 7th. As we get further away from that date, those numbers are going to become more and more solidified. You would not expect them to drastically change at this point. The Israeli Defense Forces say that at least 1,000 terrorists, Hamas terrorists, have been killed since the October 7th attack. It's not clear if that is talking about just the airstrikes inside of Gaza or if that is also including the terrorists that were killed on Israeli territory as that cleanup operation is taking place. Again, that number thrown out there was 1,500 at one point, saying that there were 1,500 Hamas terrorists killed inside of Israel. So 1,000 less than that might just be talking about during the bombing campaign. Now, in terms of the results of that campaign, they said the IDF put out recently that Ali Khadi was eliminated. He was a commander of the Nukba commando force that helped lead one of the elements during the October 7th attack, as well as Murad Abdu Murad, who they say is the head of the Hamas aerial systems or Air Force, probably drone operations in Gaza City. Now, the kind of major figure here that has not yet been killed, is likely being targeted, has been targeted by Israel for a long time now, would be the head of the Hamas military wing, Mohammed Deif. However, he is not very public in the least, and is certainly not going to be making public appearances right now as all of Gaza is under attack. In terms of hostages, Israel now says that over 120 families have been notified that one of their family members is being held hostage. There's just not a lot of information coming out on that front. We really haven't seen anything in terms of proof of life, of showing the conditions they're in, or even showing the hostages, or Hamas showing the hostages trying to solicit some sort of negotiation. Just kind of a media blackout on that front right now. Now, just a few days ago, we noted that it was over 36 different countries that have hostages right now being held by Gaza. 36, 39 are different numbers I've heard. It's a lot. The Gaza Health Ministry says that the Israeli air campaign has killed 2,215 Palestinians, including 724 children, and as many as 8,714 are wounded. Now, the information coming out of Gaza right now is already limited, and it's just going to get worse. All right, so as this siege continues, there were reports already that water has now run out. Electricity has already run out. Now, there's likely generators all across the area, but how much fuel do they have to keep those running, and how much of that will be used to communicate with the outside world? Are they going to be powering phones? Are they going to be powering life-saving medical type equipment? It's not clear, of course, right? But I would expect from here forward communication out of Gaza to slowly decrease until there's really hardly anything coming out of there at all. Now, it was reported yesterday that the Israeli Defense Forces dropped pamphlets over Gaza City urging the residents, the civilians, to evacuate ahead of any major Israeli military operation. I'll put the pamphlet up here on the screen. It was also blasted out across social media. The pamphlet read, "Dear residents of Gaza, the terrorist organizations have started a war against the state of Israel, and the city of Gaza has become a battle zone. You must evacuate your home immediately and go south of Wadi Gaza. For your safety and security, you must not return to your home until further notice from the Israeli Defense Forces. Public shelters in Gaza City must be evacuated. Do not approach the security fence for your own safety and for the safety of your families. Anyone who approaches the security fence puts himself in mortal danger. You must evacuate your homes and go south of Wadi Gaza. Israeli Defense Forces." Now, there were also reports coming out that Hamas was pushing back against this, telling people that this was an Israeli psyop to get people to give up their homes and give up their possessions, and that they should sit tight, which, look, that's how terrorist organizations have operated for a long time, right? It's in their interest that they're surrounded by civilians. It's in their interest that the battlefield becomes complicated in that manner. So it's not crazy that Hamas would not want people to evacuate en masse. However, it does sound like there is at least a little bit of that happening. We've already talked about the 12 to 13, 14, maybe 15% of Gaza City residents that have been displaced. Hopefully, they were moved out of Gaza City before this large-scale bombing campaign took place. And it sounds like more and more over the last 24 hours have continued to move out of Gaza City. Now, the 24-hour time limit that was widely reported yesterday, that was never put out by the IDF, and it was confirmed. That was added in later reporting, not exactly where or who tacked that on, but it's worth noting that that 24-hour time limit has now passed, and Israel has not kicked off any sort of ground campaign into Gaza. So it's not clear how long they're going to give the civilians to evacuate, but it's continuing right now. Now, that ask of evacuating, over 1 million people out of Gaza City is impossible, is a short answer. And the United Nations came out and said this. The United Nations is talking about the 24-hour time period, but either way, it doesn't matter if you have 24 hours or a week. There's going to be people. We see this in every humanitarian issue, whether it's war or not. There's always going to be people that want to remain behind, that aren't remaining behind for nefarious reasons, but maybe they don't want to give up their home, or maybe they can't. Maybe they're not physically able to walk or to traverse some of this rubble, or maybe they have a loved one that they want to stay near. There's any number of reasons. So it's not going to be perfect, the evacuation of civilians. It's a step in the right direction. It would be from a military perspective, it would be wonderful if before an urban operation, every single civilian left the area. It's not realistic. Shifting outside of Gaza real quick, CNN reported that since the October 7th Hamas attack in Israel, 53 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank. It's nonstop protests and violence there, and it kind of looks like it's just going to escalate as this continues forward. It does not seem to be slowing down there in any way, shape, or form. And this comes amidst Israel's ongoing concern of a multifront war, right? We know there's ongoing operations, air operations at least, in Gaza. This could be something sparking military intervention in the West Bank. Of course, there's concerns of Syria, Iranian involvement with a handful of these other countries, and then Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah fired an anti-tank missile, according to the Israeli Defense Forces, as well as drones and surface-to-air missiles that were all intercepted. Israel responded by firing into Lebanese territory, striking Hezbollah targets. And one of those strikes reportedly killed a Reuters reporter. Issam Abdallah was a videographer working for Reuters in southern Lebanon, trying to document the violence there while there's so much focus down in Gaza. And it sounds like a round impacted near his location, killing him and wounding a few others. Now, it's worth noting that Reuters said they've not yet confirmed the origin of that strike, as in who carried it out. Other outlets have said that it certainly came from the direction of Israel. That seems most likely what happened, given where he was, but of course, worth waiting for confirmation. And the last thing here, I try to generally stay away from kind of emotional arguments here, but there's been a conversation ongoing in the comment sections of my videos and others that I've seen that I really didn't expect, and it's the justification or the cheering on of mass violence against an entire group of people. I thought we had learned this after 9/11. I still think we did learn that, that not all Muslims were responsible for the terrorist attacks on September 11th. It was a specific group, and the response needs to be targeted, should be targeted at that group, and it's no different here. Hamas is responsible for the terrorist activity in Israel, not all Palestinians. And I can understand the argument where people say, well, there's a lot of Hamas support or some Hamas support in Gaza to expand that out further, but there's some point where that stops. I don't know what age it is, but Gaza is not a military training facility, right? It's a city, home to 2 million plus people. There are children there. There are kids who have been born in Gaza since this thing kicked off a week ago. So you can blame the adults, say maybe they should have done something about this. Maybe they're not outright Hamas supporters, but they should have done something. I don't even know if that's realistic. But what about the kids? What about the 3-year-old, right? They're not making any choice. The infant that was born 3 weeks before this thing kicked off. Like, there's so many young children in there, and I feel like we haven't seen the appropriate level of compassion in the international community for the people caught in the middle of this that have no say, right? Those 5-year-old kids have no say in what was carried out in Israel. They have no say in Hamas's ideology. They're just there, just luck of the draw, or the bad luck of the draw to where they were born. And I just wish we could have a little more nuance in the conversation, recognizing that there are a lot of innocent people. Even if you just say that it's the kids before they're able to make a conscious decision about what they support, even if you stop it there are tens of thousands of innocent people stuck in the middle of this that are suffering. And I hope it comes to a close soon. I know that a lot of those innocent people are going to be killed. It's just the nature of this, and it's tragic. And it's the exact same level of tragic for the Israeli children that were brutally killed on October 7th. But there's no situation to where we should be cheering on or rooting for the death of children. You know, adults suck. All we do is fight all the time. We get into wars all the time, and it's the kids that get drug into it. I just wish we could exclude all of them, keep all of them out of it, and let us figure things out on our own. Just think about it. There's a lot of children stuck in the middle of this that don't have a say. But that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.